The Silk Top Hat by Courtney Andrews. When top hats were first introduced, they were mainly made with wool or a fur felt. However, in the late 1800s, the silk top hat was introduced and changed the fashion stigma that surrounded this men's accessory. The silk top hat is made by blocking two pieces of fabric, made from a sheet of cheesecloth that has been coated with a solution and left to cure for 5 months on a top hat block. This hat block is created by several interconnecting puzzle pieces which can be removed, allowing the removal of the top hat. After the shell has sat for a week in the block is removed and the rest of the hat is attached. The shell is coated with a layer of varnish and usually left for another week or two. The silk is then cut to the correct pattern. The top hat pieces are then pinned and sewn together. Using a diagonal seam left on the side of the hat, the top hat is then eased over the shell and carefully heated. After the hat has fully rested, the brim is cured and bound with a silk ribbon, and a hat band is installed. The lining and leather sweatband are hand-stitched into place. How I made my hat. I created my top hat using black faux silk and craft foam. I did not have a hat block at my disposal, nor the correct ironing and steaming tools to create the hat in the traditional. Instead of using a steamer, I used a heat gun to form the foam into the shape I desired, and used PVA glue to adhere the pieces together. After using my heat gun and gluing, I used hat maker pins and I hand stitched the hat together, which I then covered with the faux silk fabric. I am very happy with the outcome, especially seeing to how I did not have all the official materials needed to make a copy of the original silk hat. Here you can see pictures of my final product. I will now go over the history of the craft and the time it originated. The top hat, before it was perceived in the more classic silk style, was worn in a variation of ways. Many women would wear this hat with lavish accessories, ship models, feathers, or jewelry. A male group that called themselves the dandies also wore a version of this top hat, but this was typically a little less extreme and made of beaver skin or fur. Soon the style would transform into the more elegant silk top hat. The silk top hat was a narrow-brimmed silk hat with a tall, straight crown and flat top. In the 18th and 19th centuries, the top hat represented a style the middle class and wealthy Europeans focused on, which was elegance and formality in their dress and manners. The inventor of this new style was John Hetherington. In 1793, after creating his new style of hat, John Hetherington went out walking with his new silk top hat. When he was out displaying the new hat, many onlookers were shocked. Women fainting, animals running, and children crying. Pure hysteria from seeing this new version of a shiny top hat. He was even arrested for wearing the hat, and instead of jail, he was fined 500 pounds, the equivalent of $10,000 today, for a breach of the peace. The story made the front page of the London Times, which stated, "Hetherington's hat points to a significant advance in transformation of dress. Sooner or later, everyone will accept this headwear. We believe that both the court and the police made a mistake here." There was even a law that forbade wearing the silk hats because they frightened timid people. So you can say that people of London were shocked at first, but soon the top hat caught on. By the 1820s, these shiny top hats were seen everywhere. The height and shape varied, but the tall hat became the symbol of the 19th century man. The hat became so popular that it was worn by every level in the English society. There was even a time where top hats were required to be worn by certain professionals, such as doormen, carriage drivers, and other lines of work where the businessman wanted his employees to look sharp. In 1829, London's Home Secretary Sir Robert Peel initiated a new police force called Peelers. The new police force uniforms were striking blue tailcoats and shiny top hats. This police force would eventually evolve into the London's famous bobbies. Top hats have been worn by many famous people over time. One of the most famous in the United States was President Abraham Lincoln. Lincoln usually sported a very tall stovepipe hat that could be as tall as 8 or 9 inches. Over decades, the height slowly descended to the now standard 5 to 6.5 inches, and the style even broadened slightly, giving a more tailored look. By the 1920s and 30s, top hats were still used in fashion. Many had stopped wearing this style and reserved the hat for certain occasions, such as weddings and funerals or black tie events. The world of entertainment still used this trademark in their showmanship. The everyday use of the top hat did slowly die off in the modern century. However, you still see this style worn by famous leaders during their black tie events, and even in our youth who adopted a variation of the hat into their steampunk style. The top hat has had many influences on our culture, social classes, media, and political structure throughout history. I find it so fascinating how the silk top hat was first received and how it eventually captured and defined a society. Here is the annotated bibliography. I used several articles in the creation of this slideshow. These are the 3 that I took the most information from. I do encourage reading these articles. They were very informative, very fascinating. I especially encourage you to watch this last one, which is a YouTube video. It is Stephen Jones who is creating a top hat. I highly recommend watching it. Here's another special thanks to other articles and websites that help provide information and pictures that were used in this presentation. Thank you very much.